Welcome to the PFP podcast from the Personal Finance Society, a place for thought-provoking discussion from the world of financial planning and beyond. I'm Luke Holloway, editor of Personal Finance Professional. Today, I'm talking with the CII Group's Chief Executive, Matthew Hill, about the first half of 2025, the key priorities of the PFS, and planning for 2026. Hello, Matthew, and thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure. Nice to see you, Luke.
And you. It's wonderful to have you with us for what is a great opportunity to reflect on the work that the Chartered Insurance Institute and the Personal Finance Society have been undertaking in the first half of this year, and also to hear about how plans are shaping up for 2026.
Very good.
It really does feel like momentum has been building, and we've seen progress around some significant priorities, including professional pathways, previously known as CII Futures. There's been a lot of work around corporate chartered status, membership modernisation, and of course, we've had the launch of PFS Pathway to the Profession. So from your perspective, Matthew, is everything progressing as you'd anticipated, and how do you feel about the work that's been done so far this year?
That's a great question, Luke. Let's start with some of the basics, some things that, as a result of a lot of hard work from colleagues and from our excellent CII board and our equally excellent PFS board, we've made real progress on. So if you look across the whole of the CII group, membership is up for the first time in 5 years. That's really, really important. We're a membership organisation. That's where we get our strength from. It's where we get our voice from. So having that going in the right direction is incredibly important. And another part of the basics is our finances. And for the first time since COVID, I'm able to sit here as the CII CEO and say that the finances are pretty sound. And the reason why that's important is that gives us, for the first time in quite a while, the optimism and ambition to do the things that the CII is here to do, which is promote professionalism, support the insurance and personal finance professions and being a force for good in society, helping bring new people into the profession, making it exciting and attractive to new talent. So having that sound financial basis, sound financial footing to invest in the future of the profession is just a great place to be. And we couldn't say that a year ago. The volumes of people taking our qualifications is up for the first time in 5 years. That's another great sign of, I think, the appetite that people have for working with the CII. And I'd add one or two other things that perhaps a little bit more left field. So we have been trying to signify to the outside world, both here and abroad, that we're open for business and we are ready to partner with and collaborate with anybody who shares our passion for professionalism. And as a sort of simple proxy measure for that, the frequency with which people are coming to the CII and asking us to host their graduation ceremonies or a whole range of other events is just really, really pleasing. And it's very important to me, and I know it's very important to our board and very important to the membership, that the CII is being seen to be a leader in the sector. And to my mind, part of being a leader is welcoming people in, is driving the conversation, is working with people to make the world a better place. And we're seeing, great signs of that developing in the last year. And I hope and expect that to go from strength to strength.
That all sounds really, really positive. And you emphasise how important those basics are, because they really are the foundation, aren't they, to get right before all that ambitious and proactive work can be done.
I think that's right. And, let's be clear. We are not here to make a profit for shareholders. We are here to mobilise the strength of the insurance and personal finance professions to be a force for good in society. But we need to fund all the things that we do to achieve that. And we don't get any taxpayers' money. We don't get any handouts or anything like that. We need to make sure that we're able to fund our own activities. So knowing that, financially we're in a much more robust position than we've been for some time, just enables us, as I said earlier on, to be more optimistic, ambitious, and get on with the job that our Royal Charter sets out for us. And that's I'm delighted to be able to sit here today and talk about it in those terms.
And you make a really kind of interesting point there. You say we're open for business, and that communication with the wider profession and indeed the public, and also collaboration with the regulator and that kind of thing. That's becoming, or is, of course, very, very important, isn't it?
It's hugely important. I mean, we live in a complex world with complex problems. and they require very often complex solutions that are beyond the gift of any one player, any one institution, any one organization. And it's only through people coming together and organizations like the CII bringing people together that we're going to have those effective solutions. So I think it's very, very important that the CII is partnership minded, that it is not only open to, but is looking for opportunities to collaborate with others here in the UK and across the world. And you'll hear me come back to this frequently, to make the world a better place. Because, something like insurance, let me focus on insurance for a second. Insurance is more than just a job. It plays, a fundamental role in society. We can't live our lives without it, whether we're individuals living our lives or businesses trying to succeed. We can't live without insurance. And there is a sort of more profound, almost sort of transcendent nature to being an insurance professional that goes way beyond the day job. And how, insurance professionals go about their work can have a profound impact on how society functions. And I think it's very important that we're all very mindful of that. And we are really, working to bring out the best that the insurance and financial planning professions have to offer.
Absolutely. So, Matthew, can we talk a little bit about some of the key priorities of the CII and the PFS for 2025 in a bit more detail? It would be great to start with the professional map, because that really is running through everything that the CII is doing now, isn't it? And it's been described as the golden thread of the organisation. So can you tell us a bit more about the professional map and how that's evolving and what professionals can indeed gain from using it?
When I joined the CII just over a year ago, one of the first things that was presented to me was this thing that we call the professional map. And I can tell you that having worked in a lot of different sectors, it is as good as anything that I've seen anywhere else and better than most. But we've sort of hidden it a little bit under a bushel. Now, I would describe the professional map as a blueprint for professionalism. So what it tries to do is describe in relatively straightforward terms all the components that go into making a good, rounded professional at different stages of their career and operating in different contexts. So it marries, for example, the technical competence that you might need with the broader behaviors, values, and ethics that go into making a professional, as opposed to a technician. A good technician, if you like, will have all the technical skills, but a good professional will marry that, will tie that into a broader set of behaviors, values, sort of personal professional standards. And that's what the professional map does. And one of its great strengths is that it will describe those components at different levels of seniority. The principles will be conserved throughout the career of a financial planner or an insurance professional, but they will present differently at different levels. So what it means to be a professional at your sort of entry level claims job, for example, might present on a day-to-day basis quite differently if you're the CEO of a major insurance company. It'll be connected by principles, do the right thing, be technically competent, treat people in the right way. But how that manifests itself will change according to where you are on your career journey. And the great strength of professional map is that it sets it out beautifully clearly. And as I said, as well as anything I've seen anywhere else in my career. And what we're doing with the professional map is we're using it as the basis for conversations to drive some of those partnerships and collaboration that I talked about earlier on. So, and in lots of different ways. So the professional map has strength for aspiring professionals who perhaps haven't joined the sector yet, who want to know what their job and their career might be like if they come into the profession. So it's part of the sort of offer, if you like. It's part of our work to attract people in. Look at these amazing careers you can have. Look at the breadth of them. Look at the responsibility you'll have. Look at the opportunities you will have if you come and join these amazing professions. It's really useful for people at early stages in their career because it helps them plan out their journey. So, I'm 21 years old, 18 years old, however, wherever I am. And, I'm plotting my path to be CEO in 20 years' time. What are the skills and behaviors that I need to accumulate to map my progress towards that goal? It's helpful for businesses because actually they want to think about how they cultivate and nurture a professional workforce. So they can work out, where there might be gaps in their own training programs or, their leadership values. They can use the professional map to do that. And we've even had conversations with regulators about how they use the professional map to train their own staff to understand the day-to-day life of insurance professionals and what good looks like. So it's very flexible, can be deployed in lots of different ways. I think it's very important to say up front that this is not something we sell. This is something that we use to drive conversations about professionalism and what good looks like. And it's very effective in that respect.
There are just so many valuable aspects to it, hearing you speak through them then, Matthew. It really can help people be a well-rounded professional.
I can say this safely in the knowledge that I had nothing to do with its development. Yeah, I've got no skin in the game in the professional map. And when I saw it, I knew straight away it was brilliant. It's a great piece of work. And a lot of its strength actually comes from the depth and breadth of consultation. You know, it was done diligently. It's taken in the views and thoughts and ambitions of literally hundreds of professionals and backed up by research, and the product's been tested back with the sector. You know, I just think the CII did an amazing job in pulling the professional map together, and we now need to make sure that it's available to the profession for its own development.
And do you think that's a really important next step, is to help more professionals, more businesses, and indeed more individuals that are maybe even considering or not considering coming into the profession, find out?
It's just a great asset that is there for free, and we'd like people to use it. And it really is as simple as that. You know, it's a great basis for a conversation about what good looks like for insurance and indeed financial planning professionals.
And Matthew, can you tell us then how that links to professional pathways? Because some people may know that from CII Futures in the past. Can you tell us why that's been changed, how that links to the professional map, and how people can engage with professional pathways?
So professional pathways is the code name, if you like, for our work to overhaul and transform the way that we deliver qualifications. And it brings in a number of changes, and I'll talk about a few of them. But one of them is mapping our suite of training and qualifications more clearly onto the professional map. So to make sure that, you know, what we're offering is aligned to those professional journeys that I've been talking about a bit more clearly. I mean, at the moment, we offer, you know, a very broad range of training and qualifications. They're largely focused on technical competence. And as we've just discussed, that is only one part of the picture. So we'd be expecting to broaden our suite of qualifications out to include those sort of softer elements, the behaviors, the skills, the ethics, that sort of thing. And to make sure that that's properly linked to the professional map. So that is one element of the changes that we're currently scoping out. Another one is to do with the delivery model. And at the moment, CII qualifications, you know, the lion's share of the design and delivery is actually done by the CII. And that's a little bit out of kilter with modern professional qualifications, where there tends to be more reliance on a partnership model. So the professional body will define the learning outcomes and leave the design and delivery of the actual qualifications to partners, to third parties. So we are considering the implications of moving to that sort of model. One thing that really excites me about professional pathways, and I should stress this is at the scoping phase at the moment, is the ability to offer a broader range of options around the learning experience. And I'm sort of exaggerating a little bit for effect here, but our current model is we sell someone a textbook, and then we expect them to go off and read it, and then 6 months later they come back and take an exam. And actually, for many learners, they will want something more interactive than that. I've long held the view that for many people, their best learning resource will be their peers. So professional pathways, one of the things that it brings is the potential for a more interactive style of learning for those who want it. I mean, clearly, there will still be those very sort of self-motivated and actually very admirable individuals who have taken a personal decision to invest in their own development. And they're the sorts of people that will come back after their day job and put the dinner on, and then in the evening, they'll spend the time studying the book independently, perhaps because their employer doesn't support them, perhaps because they're looking for a change of career, perhaps because they missed out on the opportunity to gain qualifications at an earlier age, and they're now investing in getting those qualifications. That will still be available to people, but we'll have the flexibility for those who want it to offer a more sort of collaborative, interactive style of learning. That's something I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it certainly does sound exciting that the whole thing is being reconsidered and refreshed, and to be more engaging to more professionals.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a strong international dimension to this as well. And there are territories we operate in where there is still quite a big emphasis on classroom-based teaching in a way that we don't really have in the UK anymore. And so we need to make sure that Professional Pathways is supporting that learning environment as well as the ones that are preferred in the UK. And actually, you know, a big part of Professional Pathways is about options and flexibility. So we can make sure that it is of greater relevance and use across a wider range of settings than our current arrangements permit.
And it feels like, they're still kind of scoping out to be done in terms of when these next steps can be taken. So,
well, it's a big change. It's a big change, Luke, and we need to make sure that this extremely valuable sort of institution is made better by the changes. And that means taking it with diligence and matching our ambition with self-challenge and caution. It's got to be done right. We don't want to throw babies out with the bathwater. We don't want to do anything to diminish the high esteem with which CII qualifications and by extension PFS qualifications are held domestically and globally. It's a treasured possession. Yeah. And we've got to handle it with great care. But we do think that it can be made better. We need to be certain that it can be made better. And that's why we're proceeding with such care and making sure that we are engaging with learners, with businesses, with members, so we can maximize the chances of getting it right.
And it sounds like, very thorough, as you say, and well thought through project. So we're very excited to hear more about that new interactive kind of offering from the CII. That's fantastic. It leads us on to another really important aspect of ongoing learning for professionals, Matthew, CPD, continuing professional development. So can you tell us how the CII, how the PFS is looking to optimise this and make this easier for members to achieve their CPD?
So I think there are two sides to this question, Luke. One is our CPD the best it can be? And are we using it to drive the connections between professionals? I think one of the great advantages of CPD is that it can bring people together. And I said earlier on in the context of the conversation on professional pathways that I believe that one's peers are one's best learning resource. So can we use our CPD in the way that it's currently being done, but more so as a means of bringing people together? So thinking about it, not just as, from the point of view of individuals who need to or want to undertake CPD in a particular topic, but how do we use it to drive engagement and connection and, communities of professionals? So that's one part of it. And that's why we're focusing on CPD, that element of it, as part of our membership modernization priority, if you like. And of course, part of that is about making sure that CPD is relevant, that it's delivered in a way that is easy to engage with, that is exciting, so that, and I know that this is a very ambitious thing to say, that CPD becomes something that actually people look forward to and is not the chore that you go through in order to, satisfy the right number of hours. Is it something that you derive some excitement and enjoyment from? The other part of the question is, having done CPD, does the administration of it, the sort of logistics of it, is it as easy as possible? And I'm very conscious at the moment that our systems, for example, for recording CPD, they're a bit clunky. They don't always present to members as being very coherent. They're not particularly modern. And we've seen lots of examples of good practice with some other professional bodies, app-based recording and a sort of Netflix-style presentation of CPD topics, that sort of thing. So can we bring the administration of CPD a bit more up to date? And that's something that we're considering in a different part of the patch, which is to do with modernizing our IT estate and our IT systems. So it is if I was to summarize that, is CPD fun to do? Does it bring you together with other professionals? And having done it, is it easy to log it and access it? Is how I would describe it.
And it's important also to say that there are further upgrades to CII Assess taking place as well, Matthew. But also, can we touch on how important it is that our local institutes and regional committees provide a lot of the CPD that our members take as well?
Absolutely. And of course, that goes right to the heart of what I mean when I talk about creating connected communities. And the local institutes, to my mind, that's almost the USP. The local institutes are the heart of those connected communities. So how do we support local institutes in their CPD offer and help them continue to make it sufficiently attractive to bring people together? Because, a profession is a collection of people who share experience, values, standards, notions of what the right thing is. And they can only really be nurtured and developed by bringing people together to enable that sort of sharing of views and ideas. And one of the main, to my mind, there are two things that the LIs that local institutes do to bring people together. One is through the excellent program of social events, and the other is through the excellent program of CPD. And they are, jewels in the crown, if you like. But it all goes to this notion of bringing professionals together, because that's where the personality of a profession comes from. It's not generated by people in isolation. It's generated by communities. And the LIs have been bringing communities of professionals together. And indeed, the PFS regional committees have been bringing professionals together in some cases for, over a century. And long may that continue. And at head office, so to speak, at the CII, we need to make sure that the support that they're provided with is right and sufficient. And that's very much what we're focused on here.
We've mentioned on a couple of occasions, Matthew, membership modernisation, which feels like a very kind of overarching area of focus and is really about bringing members together, as you said, bringing them closer to the organisation and give professionals every opportunity to get involved and get more from their membership. So can you give us an idea about what's going on in that area?
So I can. So it's quite a wide-ranging piece of work. So I'll just try and bring out a couple of principles. So it's tempting sometimes in a membership organisation to see membership as a collection of transactions. Have people signed up this year? Have they paid their dues? Have they been on the perks section of the website and done anything with it? Now, that's not how we see it at the CII. We see membership at the other end of the spectrum, which is first and foremost belonging to something, being connected to something good, something to be really proud of, that you get up in the morning and think, do you know what? Being part of the CII, being part of this family of professionals across the world is something that motivates me and excites me. And so we're thinking about how we can sort of shape our membership offer to place greater emphasis on that belonging, or sufficient emphasis on that sense of belonging, I should say. Now, I'd ought to sort of preface all of this by saying that this doesn't mean that we don't do those things now, but we need to make sure that it is properly supported and nurtured, and that everybody understands that the point of being a member of the CII is being a member of a community, not just paying the dues, if you see what I mean. So we're doing all sorts of things to achieve that. So some rather prosaic things, like making sure that we've got the right pattern of resources across the local institute network, that we've brought some coherence to the tools and the support that we provide to local institutes to foster those communities. For individuals in their direct relationship with the CII, we're looking at how that can be made much more convenient, how the full sweep of what we offer in terms of learning, development, CPD, opportunities to connect is easier to navigate. And I know that lots of members tell me that our website is perhaps not the easiest tool to use, let's say. We want to make sure that it's very easy to be a member of the CII, that we don't place barriers in the way of an amazing membership experience because our technology isn't deployed in the best possible way. We're also looking at how we sort of map more closely our membership offer onto our qualifications offer. And because a lot of things have grown up organically over time at the CII, there is just some places where the two have got slightly out of kilter. And again, bringing it back to a conversation we had earlier, how does all that connect to the professional map? So there's a sort of coherence between the components of professionalism, the training and development and the qualifications that people can benefit from, and how that translates into the membership offer and in particular membership designations. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's quite complex in many ways, but when you extract the main principles, it's about support, coherence, connected communities. Members and in fact a wider range of stakeholders can expect there to be quite a lot of engagement on this over the coming year or so. And we're very, very open to ideas and input because at the end of the day, we're a membership organisation. It's got to work for the members.
Excellent. And that communication, as you say, that ongoing collaboration is so important. Something which was also spoken about being worked on this year, Matthew, was membership via professional experience. Can you kind of give us an update of the work that went on around that and where that's at present?
Yeah, I can. So we've been running pilots on something that is new for the CII, but is relatively commonplace in other professional bodies, which is a route to membership, not through qualification, but through experience. Let me give you an example. You take somebody who's been working in the insurance profession for 20 years. They've reached a senior position, but for a variety of reasons. Might be because they've had caring responsibilities or ill health, or they haven't had support from their employer. They haven't had the benefit of going through the formal learning, development, qualification process. But nonetheless, in that period that they've been in the sector, they have amassed knowledge, experience, skills, but importantly, a pride in the profession that we think is worth recognizing in some way. And for those people, it just might not be practical to sort of force them into a qualifications route, but to offer them another route that is of parallel rigor. It will be different. It is not the same as a qualifications route, but it's got to deliver the same outcome, which is a sense of having earned something that is of value, which is a senior membership designation at the CII. Now, a lot of people have, I should say, first of all, this is still in piloting phase, because much like professional pathways, we need to make sure that we are not doing anything to undermine the value of what we already have. So it's in piloting phase, and we won't make any decisions on this until we're absolutely sure that we have preserved the value of what we already have. But what we are thinking about is how we create a pathway of, as I said, parallel rigor for people for whom qualifications just haven't been the right route, but who may well already be in leading positions in their businesses, but also in the insurance profession, and who have generated that sense of commitment to, pride in, passion for, professionalism in insurance. So that's what we're working on at the moment. I can't give you a sort of precise timing on when this decision might be made, because as I said, we've been very careful to pilot this first. What I can tell you is that having met and listened to quite a few people who've been through the existing pilots, the value that they've taken from it and the investment that they've made personally in the managing the rigor of the process that we've imposed. I mean, it's actually been quite inspiring. And people have told me that actually their lives have been changed by the opportunity to take part in the pilot. So I'm quite excited about it, but I'm also cautious about it because I know that it causes some of our members some concern because they see it perhaps as devaluing the qualifications route. If we proceed with this, we will only do so when we're absolutely convinced that the two routes are of parallel rigor, parallel value, and no one who has a membership designation with the CII now will feel undermined by opening up another route.
And that leads us on to another important priority that's being looked at, Matthew. That's corporate chartered status. So you've spoken before about kind of wanting to re-engage with that process and reimagine how it resonates with firms and in turn the public. So how is the CII approaching work around corporate chartered status?
So great question. And again, the answer is with high degrees of diligence, care, consultation, because we see this as, again, another quite profound transformation potentially. I think the first thing I would say is that we are grateful for and admire those many businesses who have invested in achieving our current version of corporate chartered status. And nothing we will do going forward will do anything to jeopardize the value of what those firms have achieved, because it is impressive and it's worth having. But we think the route to achieving corporate chartered status has been probably a bit too mechanistic in the past. It's been about, as many listeners will know, it's been about looking at the proportion of employees who are members of the CII or other sort of hard-edged metrics like that. And actually, in much the same way that I think regulators are having to search their souls these days and focus more on outcomes, we are thinking much more in terms of outcomes in a future corporate chartered offer. So to my mind, corporate chartered status is deserved by any business that has professionalism as part of its DNA. And we can evaluate and assess and form judgments about that question using different methods to the ones that we do at the moment. At the moment, as I said, it's a little bit mechanistic. I think we need to take a step back and look at businesses who are either already hold corporate chartered or who aspire to corporate chartered and ask ourselves the big question. Are these leaders in the sector? Are these firms that have professionalism embedded from top to bottom in their values, in the way they do business, in the way they support the profession? So to my mind, corporate chartered 2.0 will build on the existing proposition and make it even better and even more worth having and even more valuable, and provide a platform for firms who have corporate chartered to say we are the best of the best when it comes to professionalism. And I'm really quite excited about that. But it's important that the profession wants that. There is no point in us going down this road if there isn't an appetite for it. And that's why we want to be sure that, the new version of corporate chartered has a greater resonance in the public mind. And it goes back to what I said, corporate chartered should stand for the best of the best in terms of professionalism. I've seen some comments on social media about the new corporate chartered as sort of being dumbing down and making it easier to achieve. That's the opposite of the case. This is making it the gold standard. That is not to say that existing holders are not the gold standard. Of course they are. They have taken steps to invest in their businesses and professionalism. But it's much more about looking at the business in the round as a whole, holistically. Do they exude professionalism? And if so, that badge should stand for that.
Let's focus on the Personal Finance Society, Matthew, for a moment, and the board recently announcing the fantastic Pathway to the Profession campaign that we saw launch in London recently. Now, this is to help show aspiring professionals the way to a career in financial planning. And of course, the headline being that incredible £1 million investment as well. So can you tell us how excited you are about those success of initiatives and what kind of response you've had from the members and the professionals you've reached out to since it was launched?
So what a great question. I mean, I'm really delighted to be associated with the PFS and to have been part of the journey over the last year or so, to the point where it is investing wholeheartedly in the future of the financial planning profession, which I think is that's core business for the PFS. And I think, many listeners to this podcast will know that much of the last 2 or 3 years, maybe a bit longer, there's been a lot of distraction from that core business. So a lot of getting bogged down in governance issues and that sort of thing. So it is, I could not be more pleased that the PFS is now in a position to not just think about, but carry out really exciting activities and initiatives that are about making the profession attractive, about bringing young people in, building diversity, and making it exciting. And after all, what is financial planning about? And to my mind, financial planning, personal finance is all about helping people achieve their dreams. Helping someone retire 2 years earlier than they thought they might have. It sounds ordinary, but it's life-changing. It brings so much quality of life to people. And we don't always think about it in those terms. Someone said to me at an event I went to not so long ago that financial planners are, their job is to help people achieve their hopes and dreams. And the Pathways to the Profession initiatives are designed to make clear that fundamental essence of personal finance to people who might be thinking about choosing a career. And, building up that sense of excitement and pride. And I really want to join this profession because it's so important and makes such a difference to people. And just knowing that we're now in a mode where we are designing these initiatives, putting together these programs, putting it out there, I think not only brings value in its own right, but helps change some of the sort of less positive narrative that has existed around the PFS in recent times. So I see it as sort of self-reinforcing. The profession sees the PFS doing the right things and doing it effectively and doing it with energy and gusto and determination. And that gives us all something different to think about and talk about and contribute to. So I'll go back to what I said at the start of this, which is, I'm very proud to be associated with the PFS at this stage of its development. It's a very exciting time.
Absolutely. And in terms of Pathway to the Profession specifically, I mean, the PFS is partnering with some really powerful organisations, isn't it, in terms of UCAS and Upreach and Every Woman. And so it's really kind of all kind of encompassing. There are a lot of kind of aspects to these set of initiatives.
Yeah, well, I said, much earlier on in this conversation, I talked about, complex problems, complex solutions requiring partnership and collaboration. Ensuring the future of the personal finance profession is a complex problem. And there will be no player in this space who'll have all the answers themselves. And, if we're going to be effective, the PFS is going to have to be the leader that brings people together and makes use of everything that others have to offer. And you single out Upreach there, and I'll talk about Upreach for a second. So Upreach is a charity, for listeners who don't know, Upreach is a charity that is designed to help people from disadvantaged backgrounds into the professions. Long-standing problem in society, probably not as pronounced in our sector as in some others, but nonetheless is pronounced here. And Upreach is partnering with the PFS to help identify, mentor and support young people. And the PFS is providing or is trying to remove barriers for those young people to come into the personal finance profession. So it's looking at, subsidizing routes to qualification, that sort of thing. So it's that sort of matching up of and I'm sorry to talk about it in slightly sort of commercial terms, Upreach is supplying young people to the professions. And the PFS is creating that sense of excitement and removing the barriers for them to come specifically into the personal finance profession. And I think that is just a fantastic partnership. Neither of those parties could achieve the outcome by themselves. Working together, the potential to achieve brilliant outcomes, to transform the lives of young people who might otherwise have had very poor hopes of the future, to sustain the lifeblood of the personal finance profession with people who are keen and eager to contribute and who will be supported in being the future leadership of that profession. It's sort of, you look at anything, what's not to like and why didn't we do it years ago? Yeah, and there'll be more of this to come. And actually, if people are listening thinking, well, that sounds like a good idea, but I've got this other idea, or have you thought about doing this, or why don't you invest in this project? We're all ears. So, drop me a line, drop any of us at the PFS a line, and you'll get a good hearing.
Fantastic. And there's been surveys open, hasn't there, Matthew, to encourage members and professionals and firms to share those ideas with us. So you'd certainly encourage those to keep coming in.
And we've had very many imaginative, practical, exciting suggestions, which would, one of the downsides of having such a good response is that we now have to spend time trawling through it and responding. But I'd much rather we're in that position of that enthusiastic response, generating work for us at headquarters, than the opposite. So we're really pleased with the way that people have engaged with this. It's clearly ignited some kind of spark amongst the profession, judging by the response that we've had. Long may that continue. There is no more important part of the PFS's mission than securing the future of the profession. And what we've been doing with Pathways to the Profession absolutely hits that button.
So with all that in mind, Matthew, we've spoken about a huge amount of activity that's going on, which is really exciting. Let's have a look towards 2026. The organisation is starting to plan activities for next year already, isn't it? So what can members kind of expect in terms of any new initiatives or building on what's already in motion?
So let's start by saying that our current business plan contains lots of things that are for the long term, not the short term. So I've been very keen, as I've joined the CII, not to have a planning cycle that sort of lasts 12 months and then you throw it all up in the air and do a new business plan. So there'll be lots of things that will continue on into 2026. So we've talked about professional pathways. That's a kind of multi-year program of activity that will continue. Corporate chartered will remain a priority for us. We'll continue to be embedding the professional map. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. So if people were looking at next year's business plan and comparing to this year's business plan, they'd see a lot of commonality, is the first thing to say. And I think that's very important because you need to give people a sense of continuity and you're not chopping and changing all the time. But having said that, we're still in the process of working out priorities for next year. And of course, the board is the CII. I'm not the CII, and the board ultimately sets our priorities and strategy. But it would not surprise me to see, for example, our burgeoning program of sort of careers and talent coming on as a formal priority for us. So we've been thinking very hard, not just in the personal finance space, which we've been talking about, but also in the general insurance space, about how we encourage people into the profession, how we remove those barriers, and how we form partnerships with others who can help us sort of drive intake. And then what do we do once people have joined the profession to nurture them? I think that will probably come on as a formal delivery priority, to use the CII parlance. I think that we've got lots of things going on in the background to help make the CII the best it possibly can be, that I think we probably haven't recognised in resource deployment in the way that they should. So the things that are sort of slightly more backroom, like people strategy and making sure that we've got the right capabilities and all of that stuff. So that may find itself elevated to the business plan. And one other thing is, I mentioned earlier in this conversation that we've been, signaling to the world that we're open for business. And actually, there's a huge appetite internationally for what the CII stands for. And if we're going to respond to that appetite and create a truly global family of insurance and personal finance professionals, we've got to have the capability to respond to that appetite. So I think the work we've been doing in the last year to build out our connections internationally, I think we will probably take on a more formal status in next year's business plan with the resources to match. So the message is carry on with some of the big things that we're doing, and there will be some things that will come onto the plan more formally, but that have sort of been in train for the last year anyway.
And Matthew, we've covered an incredible array of activity. Any final words from you for our members, for our listeners, or any thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
This is a great time to to be associated with the CII, with the PFS. There's real grounds for optimism. I think it's important to remember that, though, that the strength of both the CII and the PFS come from its members and comes from their passion for professionalism. We can help unlock some of that ambition and that profession, but it is nothing without the grassroots desire for recognition as a profession, to be known for doing the right thing, to be passionate about personal development, and to stand up and say, these professions are brilliant, beautiful things. Come and join us. You won't regret it. You'll have the time of your life and you'll be giving something to society. And I think we need to have that front of our minds, whatever we're doing at the CII.
Well, it's been fascinating to speak with you today, Matthew. It certainly is a very exciting time to be part of the CII and part of the PFS. So a massive thank you for joining us on the podcast. It's been great having you.
It's a pleasure, Luke. Thank you.
And thank you very much for listening to this episode of the PFP podcast. You can find useful links in the show notes and related articles on the Personal Finance Professional website, along with further podcasts. So please like, review, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.